Hello, everybody. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, with another Healing Matters podcast. I'd like to remind people about my website, strategichealing.us. And you can like, share, subscribe. My Facebook page is Strategic Healing. My YouTube channel is Jason Eagle QRA. And today we are talking about rosacea. We are staying in with the trifecta of the skin conditions: eczema, psoriasis, rosacea. Rosacea is one of the most difficult one to treat, and really it's one of these things that's a condition that many people are just going to have it for life, and you're going to have to treat it and manage it. Curing it, in terms of getting it to go away, it's difficult because it can be related to so many different things. Rosacea, the name rosacea talks about what it looks like is like a rose. It looks red. Oftentimes there's different stages of it and there's different forms of it. And one of the most common ones that people see is it looks like a butterfly rash over the, like under the eyes, on the cheeks. A lot of times too, when it gets really bad, you can have this big red nose. Looks like kind of the W.C. Field nose. It's also related with people with alcohol. Because alcohol is one of the triggers, one of the flares, and you'll see people that, well, are they just big red-nosed alcoholic, or they have rosacea? That's when it really gets bad. It is an immune response. The body's immune system is taking over. Now, when I've talked all the time about immune responses, people, when we talk about what would be called autoimmune, the misnomer, or what people think that is saying, is that your immune system is screwed up and your immune system is broken. No, it's that your immune system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is it's fighting an infection. It's fighting some sort of attack. And that's what rosacea is. It's related to different forms of infection. The most common form of infection, in terms of where does it come from, just where almost every condition comes from, it comes from the gut. So it's a lot of times it has been related to what's called hypochlorohydrosis, meaning not enough stomach acid. That's why a lot of the medical community find it related to, now they've not been able to establish that this is the cause, but there's a lot of relations to people having what's called the H. pylori, which is a bacteria. That's why a lot of times they treat it with an antibacterial or antibiotic. The H. pylori infection in the stomach is the same one that causes ulcers. That's too why many people, for instance, the things that cause ulcer or flare-up ulcers would be hot foods. That would be one of the other triggers too of the rosacea, is hot foods. And rosacea is like a hot, red, inflamed. And people too, even getting too hot, being in too hot a room can flare it up. And but also there's another thing that's involved in this, and this is the spleen. And that's one of the organs that many people forget about. And the spleen is the organ that it secretes enzymes for digestion as well, but it filters the blood. So the rosacea, especially being the red, having a blood condition, it's shown as one of the things that where it flares up in the skin is where you have increased nitric oxide production, and in fact, too much nitric oxide. There's also where you can look at the skin and there's excess cells, excess tissue. There's too much cellular growth. There's too much, I think you would call the immune system, in terms of lymphatic flow. That's why sometimes it gets like white, that's why sometimes they consider it acne, or they call it, let's say, acne rosacea, although it's not an acne. And in fact, like a whitehead, now you don't get blackheads from this, but you do get whiteheads. And a whitehead is just, that's the lymph, or that's white blood cells, dead white blood cells, because they're going to fight infection. Okay, and then oftentimes too, you can see that there's this sounds gross, but there's skin mites. When people produce excess skin cells, dead skin cells, the mites come and feed on that. And so there's even some conditions where some of the treatments in terms of the things that will kill the mites, that would be the camphor, tea tree, coconut oil, these types of things. We'll get a little bit later into all the topical types of things that people, and that's, a lot of times when I talk about skin conditions and say it all starts on the inside, most people, let's say eczema and psoriasis is, you can wholly treat it on the inside and don't even have to do topicals, because sometimes the topicals, meaning things that you put on top of it. Whereas the rosacea really depends upon, you have to do some topicals, and that's the thing that tends to heal it and get it to drop down. Many times people go through phases of this, which is certain times of the year it comes out, and then certain times of the year it goes away. Even though it is said that the sunshine can exacerbate it, make it worse. Also, I've seen many cases where the sunshine in the summertime, when people get a good suntan, and that tends to make it go away. Now, that can also have to do because of the vitamin D production. The body is producing, literally calming down the immune system. So there's also been shown that there's light therapy that people can do. The red light, the blue light, there's low level intensity light. There's light therapies that we can do that would be treatments for this. But again, let's go back into, what is it as far as an infection? Again, starting with how did it start in the gut? It started in the gut by people, number one, not having enough minerals. We live in a country where our farming practice have taken all of the minerals out of the soil. And, people go, well, I eat my organic. You have to understand, in the United States, when it is certified organic, that doesn't really mean anything. Okay, and it just means that they're not putting pesticides in anymore. You can have a piece of property that's a factory farm that if they use pesticides and they've done all kinds of things, they haven't put any minerals out, they've just stripped it, they've over-farmed it again and again and again. To become certified organic by what's called the California, hi Ann, good to see you. People I'm talking about Facebook, I'm seeing people come up that I haven't seen in a while. The farming practices of, they just will do it again and again and again. And then you'll find many farms, conventional farms, including organic farms, where you go to them and it is literally just sand. And they are completely dependent, especially the when you go out into California. I've been there before. I've been to the broccoli fields and the cabbage fields and the lettuce fields and things like that. And they have to have they have to have fertilizers, the NPK, because it is dead soil. There's nothing in it whatsoever. Now, they will put fertilizers in it, which is nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, these types of things, which will make the plant grow, will feed the plant. But the plant is not pulling any minerals out of the soil because there's no minerals left. So, as I said, to make a piece of property organic, which means people go, oh, that's great. All they have to do is have 5 years of not putting pesticides on it. But it says nothing about putting minerals back in it. Now, if you were to get, let's say, Amish grown or stuff like that in America, they put the manure back on it. They put this other stuff in it. Also, when you see people that come from other parts of the world, third world, what we'd call a third world country, it's actually first world because their food is so much better. People that come from India, people that come from the Ukraine, people that come from, parts of Russia, people that come from, say, some of the islands like Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and things like that. These poor people literally are eating local foods, and these local foods are grown by people who do it the old way. And when these people come to see me in my office, I find no matter how sick they are or how, whatever their problem is, they are way healthier than people here in America because they heal way faster because they already have the minerals in their body. So again, getting back to how did the stomach get so infected and then the guts get infected and then it just comes out of the skin? Well, because when people don't have enough hydrochloric acid, which started with not getting enough minerals. And the number one mineral, so if you want to spare your kid from getting this as an adult, give them salt, sea salt. How do you make hydrochloric acid in the stomach? And again, this is a little hint on which is the major treatment for is take hydrochloric acid. But when you're younger, your body makes hydrochloric acid, which is the chemical composition of is HCl. H is a hydrogen, Cl, that's chloride, okay? Well, chloride, isn't that chlorine? No, chloride, that comes from salt. Well, what is salt? Salt is NaCl, sodium chloride, okay? So when you take sea salt, even, table salt too is sodium chloride, but it's junky salt. So what your body does is when you take enough salt, when you take salt, it is literally does like this chemistry action where it breaks the bonds apart and it takes the Cl apart from the sodium. And so now you got a Cl, a chloride, okay? Then it takes the H from H2O, which is that's water, takes a hydrogen, and it bonds it to it. So now you're the factory that makes HCl in your stomach, but it comes primarily from having enough salt. Well, here in America, we've been scared about salt, and we don't want to put salt. We don't, especially with children. And so children turn into a teenager, turn into an adult with not enough salt, and then other minerals, all of the other trace minerals, is you are not going to produce enough hydrochloric acid. And then you'll get to a point where when you eat food and you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, not only do you not digest it, but you have nothing to kill off infection that is, attached to the food. There are little microbes and all kinds of things that are living on the food. And it's supposed to not be chewed up just by your teeth. It's also to be chewed up by the acid of your stomach. Okay? So when people get what's called H. pylori, which is this infection of the stomach, which then eats away at the acid lining, it happened because they didn't get enough minerals. And then boom, 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 things get into the guts that normally would have been killed off. They're allowed to get in there and they're, like Pancho Villa, woo-hoo, and they just take over. And then they get into the system, right? So, it's really difficult to treat things after they've gotten in and they've taken hold. So the caveat to this is how do you protect a child that becomes a teenager, that becomes an adult, is get them on their minerals and get them on sea salt right now while they're young, okay? So now we're older, and what do we do about that? Well, we have to really put that, again, adults should be taking sea salt. If you are over 100 pounds, it's about a full teaspoon of sea salt a day. And people go, that's a lot of salt. It's not as much as you think. What I recommend for people to do is just get a little, little Ziploc, little snack baggie. Take a teaspoon in the morning, level teaspoon with your good sea salt, like a Mediterranean sea salt or Celtic sea salt, or the Premier Research Labs pink salt, which is not a Himalayan salt. It is actually a Mediterranean salt that's mixed with this Hawaiian Alea volcanic minerals, all of the minerals known to man, but it's good salt. Put a teaspoon in a little baggie, and throughout the day, some goes in your food, some goes in your water, some goes in this, until it's gone at the end of the day. If you still got like a half teaspoon at the end of the day, put that in a big glass of water and drink it down. Day after day, what will happen is you will literally start building up more of these minerals, and in particular the sodium and the chloride inside your gut, and you will start to rebuild. Real salt. No, real salt. I had a question. People go, is that called real salt? No, there is actually on the market, which is what's called real salt. And real salt is, it's actually mined salt from old seabeds. It's not seawater anymore. Same thing with Himalayan salt, which is, it's not been seawater for millions of years or God knows how long. Which means it doesn't have the same amount of energy in it. It doesn't have the same amount of literally energy in it. The sunlight puts energy. But here's the other thing is, in order to take these huge blocks of salt and turn them into where you can shake it or put it in the thing, You have to use machines that have metal grinders, and these metal grinders grind up the salt, and the salt eats away at the metal and gets deposited into the salt. So, real salt or these other old seabed, which come from ancient seabeds in the ground, they're not in water anymore. You have lots of contaminant, same thing with the Himalayan salt. There's lots of contamination of metals, and the metals get into the salt and they will get into your body. That's why a really good, like the Premier Research Labs, or a good Italian salt called Alessi, or Baleen, these are, you can find them at Kroger's, Meijer's, anything like that. There's a whole bunch of them. These are a hand-harvested, air-dried, solar-dried, fresh sea water that they get the salt from it, and they don't use metal. In fact, they rake them with these wooden rakes, the old-timey method, so no metal attaches to it. There's a whole gourmet world of salt, yes. And some people say, I can't stand the salt. So what they do is you can go to the health food store. People go, I can't stand the taste of salt. It makes me want to vomit. What you do is you can go to the health food store and you can get these capsules, and you can get the empty ones. And what you do is you just sit at your table, put it in a big bowl and sit, watching TV or whatever, and then put them into capsules so that you can then have them a capsule. And then there's companies that actually make a capsule form, but you can sit and make your own capsule. Emily talks about that. Yeah, I've had a number of people do that, and they just make up their capsules and of the sea salt so that they can take it without tasting it. Okay. So getting that in the body. Now, when a person's older, the salt is not going to, you should do the salt, but that's not going to produce the hydrochloric acid anymore. So you can literally take a hydrochloric acid capsule and you take it at the end of your meal. And if you're, let's say, in your 20s or 30s, you should be taking 2 to 3 or even 6 of these per meal. And they're not going to burn your stomach. If they do burn your stomach, then that means you've already had a problem with this H. pylori, and you just back down. You actually take less and less, and you build yourself up to it. You start with 1, and then you do that for, let's say, a week or so. Then you can build, eventually you can build, and you will kill that infection inside the gut, and then you'll rebuild the lining, and it won't burn anymore. Your stomach is made for the hydrochloric acid. So eventually it will work. But that's what the hydrochloric acid will then soak down into your intestines and will start to kill off the stuff of where it's coming from. Okay. Again, we'll talk about the triggers. One of the top triggers of this is heat. So hot showers will make it flare up. Stress, a lot of people, it's the stress, and when they're highly stressed or in a stressful situation, that can go, so you got to manage your stress. Hot foods, even though hot foods are good for you, some people it can exacerbate it. So one of the other things that helps to really exacerbate it as well, especially, this is very common in women. I see a lot of rosacea in women more so than I do in men. The problem with women is they use lots of creams. So avoid the creams, especially even the makeup. You'll see people, the women that put a lot of foundation and makeup, and that just makes it worse. But, a woman has to wear makeup. So use a water-based makeup, not an oil-based makeup, okay? And then when you get home, clean it off. Use just regular good soap, like a Dr. Bronner's type of soap, or or an Ivory type of soap, a very good non-toxic, just kind of basic soap to clean your face off. Okay, some people talked about also cool compresses, like taking like ice water and then putting that when it's really hot, because people say it feels really hot as well. Here's another trick that I've heard about which is if you got it like on your cheek or something like that, where the rosacea is, get a piece of ice, like like an ice block, or like an ice cube, and put it in between your cheek and gum, like tobacco or like a chaw, and suck on it, or again, it's behind there, and that reduces the swelling. That also reduces the red heat, okay? Again, getting to the treatments of this would be the hydrochloric acid, the salt, like I talked about, the digest. The digest has all of your digestive enzymes. And so another one of the digestive enzymes is protease, that helps to digest protein. So you really want good superior digestion. Another thing that kills this kind of gut infection would be the alicidin or the garlic. There are garlic pills, and the alicidin is a garlic pill. That's very, very helpful in terms of really, it thins the blood, not too much, not like an aspirin. And because again, we start to see where you get the broken blood vessels and almost like the coagulated blood, like the blood, the immune system that goes there, and it becomes all kind of stuck. And so keeping the blood thin also helps to kind of carry this away and get the body to clean this out. B vitamins are really huge, but in particular B3, which is the niacinamide, has been shown very helpful in treating this condition in particular. Another one, which is called SOD, superoxide dismutase. This has been one of the superstars in terms of really treating, because it's an antioxidant. And that's one of the things, excuse me, that we see is that it's a not only a pro-inflammatory condition, but it's because it's a free radical pathology, meaning that's why sun can exacerbate it in people. It's because they're low on antioxidants. So you increase the amount of antioxidants. And one of the best antioxidants is what's called superoxide dismutase. You can find these in foods, but there's also some pill forms of that, and you can take a high concentrate of SOD. DHA, essential fatty acids, including one of the topical things, which is, hold on, I'm going to take a little sip here. It'll tickle in my throat. Green drink. I'm drinking green drinks. Let me cut to the chase. Clean your blood up. We see that blood purification is a huge thing because, excuse me, the spleen is involved. And since the spleen is cleaning up the blood, a lot of times these red hot conditions are a spleen condition. Cleaning up the blood is very, very important. And so reducing the sugar is feeding it. Cut out the sugar and increase the greens. And a green drink is a great thing. There's another really good skin anti-infective. This is what's called Propolis. Sorry, real bad tickle. Propolis, B-Propolis, I've talked about this before, is an anti-infective, and it's really good for skin conditions. Now, there are some people that have an allergy. I've known people that have done the Propolis, and it really had a bad effect on it. So you got to test it and make sure that you don't have an allergy to the B resins. People that have an allergy to the B resins should not do Propolis. As I was saying before, DHA, essential fatty acids. A lot of times, too, when people are, so clean up the diet, when people eat fried foods, so this gets exacerbated by people eating lots of fried foods, which are these bad cholesterols, the hydrogenated fats, the fake fats, the trans fats, these types of things. They also clog the skin up. And so what people need is they need an oil change. And so get rid of these fried foods and these heavy bad oils and start eating more of the good oils. DHA, which is docosahexaenoic acid. Premier Research Labs makes one, and it comes from it's a plant-based one, or it's a microalgae one. Very, very good. I've seen people that had rosacea and nothing treated it, and we put them on 20 of the DHA a day, which seems like a lot. And in a matter of days, it went away. Problem is you can't stay on that dose for a long time. And again, I've even had people where this is one of the rosacea is a real tough one because you'll do something that works for a while and then it stops working. So you got to stay on it, okay? And the coconut oil, eating coconut oil, but coconut oil, now I'm going to get into the topicals. What are the topical things? What things can I do, okay? Clean your face off. Like I said, wash your face well with, like, say, good ivory soap, and then massage coconut oil into it. One of the reasons why coconut oil is because coconut oil provides lots of oxygen. Also, coconut oil is anti-infective, antimicrobial, and it's an antioxidant, and it will cool it off. There's another one, which is diluted vinegar, either apple cider vinegar or white vinegar, and it's a 6-to-1. So let's say you're going to make a batch of it. You will do 1 teaspoon of the vinegar, whether it be just a straight white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, and 6 parts water. Okay, so you dilute it. And then you can even put it on a little mister thing, and you can just mist your face right after you've cleaned your skin. And don't put it on with the oil. So you don't do these things together. You kind of do them separately. So I would recommend, like a person would say, wash their face, dry it off, then mist it or tap it with or splash it with that vinegar, let that dry, and then put your oil on that, which would be coconut oil. You can also put aloe. If you got an aloe plant, cut that aloe off, and then that goo, and just put that goo on your face. And you can also buy aloe juice or aloe gel. That's very, very helpful. It's anti-infective. It promotes a lot of oxygenation, and it speeds up the healing process. And it's like a burn. So you put aloe on a burn, and it will heal that. Other really good compresses is green tea. So get green tea, like the green tea bags, and then basically brew it like a hot tea bag, right? And you don't want to do it cold. You kind of make a hot tea bag, right? Let it sit in the hot water, okay? You can drink that water, you can dump that water out, okay? And then take the tea bag out and let it sit and let it get cold. In fact, you can even put it in the refrigerator and let it get cold. And then put those tea bags on where that rash is. Also, chamomile tea, you can do the same thing. The chamomile tea is actually very soothing. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, and it will literally reduce the swelling and it will reduce the redness. Another thing is oatmeal. Weird, strange. So you make some oatmeal, okay, and then let the oatmeal cool off. And like you would do like a mask, like they talk about, like a seaweed mask or something like that, you put oatmeal. Oatmeal or colloidal oatmeal has a drawing effect, and it will draw, especially when you get those ones that have the pustules or that have those white things, or almost like the pustules, like when people get bad rosacea, like forms like this, they break open, and it's like a clear liquid. Like when you get a sunburn, it makes that blister, or like a welt that makes that blister. That is the immune system going there, and it dries it out. So what you can do is put the oatmeal on the face, and then let it sit there for a while and even kind of dry. It can even get kind of dry, and then you kind of peel it off and then wash your face off, and then just let it be dry like that. Coconut oil is another thing that you can do. We talked about that. Here's another thing that is really, really good, but you got to test a patch on it. Don't just smear it all over your faces. Test a particular patch. Pick a little piece of where, one little tiny little patch of where you do have your rosacea, and try Blue Star ointment. Now, Blue Star ointment comes up over and over again. Just had a couple days ago, someone sent me a picture, and it was, what is this? And that's ringworm. And you can see a ringworm would be like that round, scaly patch. Ringworm is a fungal infection, and the Blue Star ointment works really well for that. Now, the same thing is Blue Star ointment can work really well for some rosacea, but test a patch. It may have a little burning sensation, but if it really burns really bad and flares it up and makes it worse, then don't use it. Okay? One of the things, the main ingredient in Blue Star ointment is still a natural product, and one of the main ingredients in it is camphor. And camphor is like a menthol smelling thing. And over and over again, that's what you see is talked about in terms of one of the topical treatments for rosacea would be the camphor. And that's why I like the Blue Star ointment. And again, you can have these skin mites. You can also have fungus that is also related to the rosacea, because sometimes too, you can get, like, say, a skin fungus that is underneath these dead skin cell layers, and that then causes your immune system to go after to try and fight that fungus. And so then that's where you get the rosacea. So it's kind of like a fight that's going on there. And again, people have really talked about the letting those tea bags and other things cool, because it's cooling, and the cooling thing tends to pull the heat out. But and then again, let's go back to, again, this is like the title of this, it's all internal. Clean your diet up. I've had many people who have done juice fasts and juice cleanses, getting off of, even avoiding some of the protein, and just kind of doing kind of like a vegetarian or vegan type of diet that has really helped reduce the amount of sugar. But I've also seen people do where it's actually the keto diet, or actually high protein. Well, what's the difference? Because both of them really reduce the sugar. Okay, so sugar is one of the big keys with this. Is you're feeding the infection, so clean the diet out. And again, the sugar in terms of the infection lives in the blood. So cleaning the blood, there is what's called a protease blood purge. I've seen this really help people too. After you kind of clean the system out, you can do what's called this protease blood purge, which is taking high levels of protease. And in fact, there's a company called Allergy Research, which makes pork pancreas. And pork pancreas, and it is just pure protease. And what you do is you take it like 3 times a day on an empty stomach, and that will clean the blood out. You can also do, there's the Phytozymes. Premier Research Labs makes 2 different types of proteolytic enzymes. One is the Phytozymes, and you can take 2 of those 3 times a day on an empty stomach. That will clean the blood out. I've seen that also clean the joints out and things like that, and get rid of excess fibrin. And then they also make a protease as well too, which can be taken as a digestive aid, or it can be taken alone as a blood purge in terms of cleaning the blood out. So these are all tricks and tools of how do you treat and manage rosacea, because a lot of times people, this is entrenched and it's taken such a long time. Keep working on your immune system, and eventually you will get to the bottom of it. But again, people can go through these triggers in terms of, and it's the stress. So even let's say you fix the gut type of thing, and it's all completely fixed, but people's immune system have gotten used to the triggers of stress. And you can still have this be affected by stress. And so the B vitamins help with the stress, but stress management, prayer, meditation, read a book, go outside. I've also seen grounding has literally, I've seen people who have had a flare up and then they take their shoes off, put their bare feet on the ground, and within 20 minutes, the redness is gone or highly reduced. Same thing with pain, same thing with inflammation, is you'll have people that report, let's say, a 6 pain scale. They go on anywhere in their body. They go out and they do some grounding for about 20 minutes. Go out, do your gardening, get your hands in the dirt, get your knees in the dirt, stand your feet on that ground, and it really makes you feel better. And so that's it. Until next time, it's Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Bye-bye, everyone.